Hi, in this episode of the Smarter Business Podcast, John Osberg chats with John Gavigan of Endeavor, Western New York, an organization that has set out to create support systems for high-impact entrepreneurs. The two talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the importance of health, and knowing when to say you don't know. If you like what you hear, please subscribe wherever you're taking in this podcast. And please share or leave a comment. We're always looking for feedback, and your interaction can help people find this show.
Hi, everyone. This is another episode of the Smarter Business Podcast. I'm John Osberg, a local entrepreneurial business professional, and I am so excited to have my number one mentor and great friend, John Gavigan of Endeavor, Western New York, joining us today. John, welcome.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be here.
I'm excited to have you,
Look
man.
at me and you. This
Here
is
we
great.
are. Here we are.
It's where we're going to go.
JG and OZ.
Yeah, OZ, the original
JG
gangsters.
and OZ.
Like
right?
it.
Yeah.
Like
So John, love the energy, first of all. I'm hoping there's enough bandwidth in this place to, put up with the energy output that's about to happen here. But Johnny, walk us through what you're up to right now. Tell us actually a little bit first, where you've been, what you've done, and where you're going.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm proud to say I took a new role back in September with a great global organization called Endeavor Global. We're supporting regional companies with global resources. And it's a perfect time for this type of organization to be in our community supporting entrepreneurs. The reason why you and I met was because we're both entrepreneurs and we love the business community. Right. And I was, of course, running 43 North for a bunch of years and it started off as an entrepreneur for many years. And this is just, Endeavor's just like another step in my journey, supporting, loving, and being a part of the entrepreneurial community. And I'm really happy that it's here. I'm really happy that I'm doing it.
Yeah, dude, this is great. And just listen, energy, let's remember the hands on the table, because we're going to get sound feedback when all these thousands of listeners are watching it. But no, that's awesome, John. And
that's cool.
It's funny. I went back into LinkedIn, big topic we like to talk about, power of connection. And I looked at last night our first time really interacting, and it was funny to read how I reached out to you and really went after, your connection, the charisma. And I got back a good to see you with a C space U. See you tomorrow. But anyway, so awesome.
That's how it started.
That's right. Yeah. So just maybe step back. You talk about entrepreneurship, right? You talk about the energy, loving the ecosystem. We got so many cool things with Techstars, with Greco and Clark Dever that are doing great things there. Endeavor, Western New York, IBN, the list goes on. Why don't we talk a bit about kind of how you got here, maybe?
Yeah. All right. I learned to appreciate entrepreneurs because I had a firsthand. I witnessed it firsthand. It was my parents, right? They opened up a business back in the 80s, and my brother and I would, and it was. I always said that we were like the mini Delaware North, because we had concession stands in the town of Tonawanda, the hockey rinks, the golf courses, etc. So my brother and I, we were not only line cooks, but we were, it was my parents' place, right? But we were washing golf carts, selling popcorn at 4th of July to all the people around and stuff like that. So it was a great experience working for Tom's Food and Sports Service, supporting customers, working with employees, working with suppliers, etc. And we learned this at a very early age on how to interact with people and establish networks that support an organization. So my brother and I got a very clear visual of this early on in our lives. And it must have seeded, because years later, even as I was developing as a business professional with Xerox, which was a phenomenal organization to learn about how to structure your time and work with people to optimize value. Mm-hmm. And whether it's as an employee or a customer, a partner, a business professional, etc., as a manager of other people, Xerox did a really good job kind of honing some innate skill set and desire within me, but then putting shape to it.
Yeah.
So as I evolved, the entrepreneurial trigger was that thought process was always in my mind. I wanted to be a part of my own business, etc., and always felt like that's what we were going to do. And eventually I had connected with a partner, Mark Perlow, back in 2006, and we started City Graphics Solutions, or built on top of an existing organization. And we ran that together for, 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. and ended up selling that organization to a division of Xerox in 2011. We had a number of businesses that started between my wife and my brother and other friends and people that I had trusted prior to XSI opening, but it was like a training ground to get to that one moment in time. And it was a great experience. But I realized during that time with Mark and with our employees building out this company that how much I appreciated entrepreneurs and the risks that they take of their time, their money, opportunity costs, or whatever, and how transformative entrepreneurs can be on a community, creating opportunities for other people. And it really resonated with me. So when the 43 North opportunity came up, it was like a no-brainer. It was like I was wired for that position and for that role in my life. And it turned out to be one of the great experiences. And what I learned during that time was that there were other people that felt the way I did about entrepreneurs. You know, Marnie Levine and Jack McGowan and Jordy Levy and Bill, you know, Maggio and all these people, Christina Orsi, you know, all these people cared about leveraging entrepreneurs to make a difference in the community that we loved. And through that, we did unbelievable work together. And now in 2020, I can reflect back on all these experiences and know that we're positioned as a community to take another step in allowing our community to evolve.
That's incredible. It's as if you're in my mind already, because I wanted to key in on some of the family entrepreneurs you've got. Obviously your parents, right, started that, but then your wife, Nicole, your brother, Brian, right, your wife's an interior designer, and your brother's, the youngest cobbler in town, Soul Man. I mean, I got to take my shoes there later today. So you're in my head there, but it's just incredible to see how entrepreneurship is just truly at the core of who you are, right? It's one of your unique God-given things, talents that you've harvested, and you've done such an awesome job being a cheerleader for Buffalo, for this area. So
I think it's important to know too that entrepreneurism is just one segment of the business community, right? But in order for a balanced, healthy community to grow, you need everybody, all the sectors on all cylinders. You know, we have law enforcement, we have teachers, and we have our farmers in agriculture. We have the people that entertain us, you know, either sports or people that feed us, you know, in great restaurants. And I always felt that for a long period of time, we had been lacking in our entrepreneurial endeavors. This community was built on entrepreneurs. You know, back at the turn of the 20th century, we were a very entrepreneurial community, and we traded that entrepreneurial spirit for legacy jobs, you know, for more traditional business, and we let the innovation go. And only in the last, and it doesn't mean that we didn't have great entrepreneurs that came through, let's say, in the last 50, 60 years, but we, not as a community of innovators and entrepreneurs. And what we've seen over really the last 10 years is a resurgence. When I think of the renaissance that's happening in Buffalo, to me, this is at our entrepreneurial spirit is at the epicenter of that renaissance, that people are beginning to believe that they're solving true real problems in their communities, and they're tying a profitable or sustainable entity around solving those problems. And to me, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, to me, it's one of the most important parts of the American fabric is to have true entrepreneurs in your communities solving real problems with a sustainable organization, and that will drive wealth, wage creation, job creation, you name it. That is the sustaining fabric of a community.
That's the key. Well said. Really well said. So we've touched on, your Xerox days. We've talked about 43 North. So let's talk about present day. So where are you? Where are your plans? Where do you see things going? Who have you brought in? Who have you pulled in from the community? Let's talk about that and Endeavor Western New York and how that all plays out.
Yeah, so Endeavor Western New York, we soft launched back in September, so we've been pretty active since September of 2019. Endeavor Global, through a very unique story, became aware that the Western New York region was beginning to pop when it came to our startup culture. We are an emerging ecosystem, if you will. And what Endeavor does is provide global access to new markets, syndicated capital, right? Big global capital, and access to very unique talent and mentors and advisors for the entrepreneurs that Endeavor supports. We're in 30 plus countries, we're in over 60 cities, and they selected, out of all the big world,
This is a big
right?
one. Yeah.
Big blue marble. They selected Western New York as an emerging marketplace that they wanted to deploy global resources to help support regional companies. And so it's perfect because there's really no other outfit or organization that's really there to support the type of entrepreneurs that we're really interested in supporting. So let me frame this out for you.
Please.
So today, and I can go back to 2010, but I'll start out present day. So in this marketplace, we have organizations that really support what we'll call ideation type companies, pre-seed, and angel type companies, right? So you have the Launch New Yorks, you got University of Buffalo, you got Techstars Buffalo, you've got the Angel Network, the Western New York Venture Association. All those groups in various ways support really early stage companies. Those companies then kind of filter through almost like a funnel down to the ones that seem to be a little bit further along. And that really gets into seed stage companies and really approaching what we call Series A, right? So you're starting to get into real institutional funding opportunities for early stage companies. And that's really through 43 North, Excel Partners, NextCore up in Rochester, and a few others. Varia Ventures is another one that's focused in this area. So you got a couple of organizations, Illuminate, another great competition up in Rochester.
Sure.
So anyway, you got these organizations that are really focused in the seed to Series A. But as Brad Feld said years ago, I was at a Kauffman Foundation meeting in Kansas City years ago, and Brad Feld said, look, no matter what size community you are, it's going to come a point where it's your responsibility to get your entrepreneurs growing to a certain point.
Right.
But once they reach that inflection point, it will be important for the community to embrace those high-level entrepreneurs or ones that look like are going to be growing, and then broaden out and expose global resources and provide that access to global resources to those high-level companies.
Got it.
That's what Endeavor does.
Very
We
cool.
are the next link in the chain of helping identify and select the type of entrepreneurs from this region that we can expose to the global marketplace. So if they need money, we now have a team.
Got it.
You need access to strategic talent that may be really difficult to find from the Northeast or our region. We got a guy, right? You want to
Got
go
a guy.
expand in Brazil or in Europe, and you don't exactly know regulatory-wise or how to activate that,
You have it.
we can position you to expand your product and grow.
Huge.
So it's a really good time. I'm just because I've been so engaged in the startup community for the last 5 years, I got to tell you, I'm like overjoyed that Endeavor's here. I'm really proud of that, but I'm proud of the work that I've done to contribute to it, but more so, I'm actually proud of being just one person among the multiple people that have put so much effort into letting our ecosystem, our startup ecosystem, evolve.
Yeah.
It wasn't about one person or one group. It was about a community coming together to focus on letting our entrepreneurial roots reemerge.
Right.
And we did it together, and it's really super cool that we've been able to do that. By the way, of which you are a part of.
Pleasure to be a part of that. Going back to my ETG days, software development, when we first connected.
Even more than that, you've been a great connector of people along the way. Your passion for this type of work, trying to connect as you learn, as we all learn and develop our own skills and acumen, your ability, to connect resources that can be complementary, people that can be complementary is pretty impressive. So,
Appreciate it.
and there's an energy to it, right? I mean, we've seen that over the last bunch of years, that it's cool when you're a part of a team doing something for a community that hasn't been done in 50, 60, 70 years, right? And we're all part of this. There's no more names on street signs. My guess is that we'll have a nice bronze plaque in City Hall with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 names inscribed on it.
Give me goosebumps here.
Well,
I love that.
We should.
I love that. Well, it goes back to purpose and why. So, just before we were shooting today, I gave you a belated Christmas present, Simon Sinek, start with why, right? It's your purpose. It's not what you do, it's why you do it, right? And for us, it's the greater good of the community. You had went through the framework earlier about not just great startups and entrepreneurs, but it's the people that are supporting those folks. It's the restaurants, it's the sports, it's entertainment, and the list goes on. So it's really cool.
And we weren't doing our job.
Right.
They were doing theirs.
Right. They stayed
now
there.
Now it's time for us to
Buffalo, like you had,
step up.
Exactly. And you keyed on it earlier. Buffalo is a city of firsts. I mean, hate to throw this mention out there, but electric chair, that was invented here, used here, and so many other street lights, and the list goes on. So so that's really cool.
Tesla's plant was there.
Yeah.
I show it to my kids every time we drive by. I'm like,
that's where it started. The Gigafactory.
That's where it started.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. So we're talking a lot about entrepreneurship. We've talked about power of connection, and I appreciate the shout out there. I'll make sure to pay you the $10 later, or I'll pick up your lunch tab after this. But no, perfect. I really appreciate it. And so let's talk a little bit about, you've keyed in on the businesses that you've worked as a part of. Let's talk about what you have done, because you're such a visionary, creative, incredible professional that I'm just grateful to have you as a friend and mentor. But what have you done to make either your business or businesses smarter, right? So it can be anything. It's a broad ask, but what have you done, whether it was 43 North or your Xerox days or now in Endeavor? What have you done that's allowed your business to become smarter in a way, more efficient, more productive?
I wish I had a really good answer for this. In other words, ones that would just follow this script and you'll win.
Yeah.
But the reality is I'm personally still on that journey as well. So I don't, and I'm 48 years old. So I feel like this process really never ends. So if I could, I'll step back and almost think through some of the things that I think have helped me along the way, and then suggestions that I've had for companies that I've either mentored or worked with, or even individuals. And I'm sure I won't hit all the things or the values that I have, but hopefully it'll be somewhat of a list that's worthy of sharing.
I'm sure.
I think, the number one thing is know who you are, right? So if you can find your integrity, because your integrity is going to be the one thing that's going to last you throughout your professional and frankly, your personal life. So you're going to, whether or not you've seen these people or been interacted with these people over the years, the reality is we all have experiences with people that we trust and don't trust, and it points to the integrity. So don't lose it. So value-wise, put the big I at the epicenter of who you are. And if you do that, there's a good chance that people are going to want to work with you for a lifetime. So start there.
Well said.
Number 2, ask a ton of questions. I'm always impressed, and I'll do a shout out to my buddy Joe Smith. Okay, he's a car guy, but he started at Coopers and Lybrand, great accountant, very bright business mind, and so he wanted to leverage his area, his property out there in Niagara Falls, and he wanted to do a development, but he didn't know how to do it. Here's a wickedly smart guy, but didn't understand really how to coordinate what the elements it took to put on a development to develop his property into something that then could be put on a balance sheet, right? Cool. In a more positive way. What he did, he asked questions. Here's this brilliant business person that's all he did was ask questions for people that he trusted. They gave him good information. He was able then to put together a plan, rebuild the plan, build a better plan, and then activate that plan. And now he's got another great thing for him and his family and that community out there. And it really resonated with me as when I asked him, what was the difference? He's like, I just asked a lot of questions on things that I didn't know the answer to.
2 ears, one mouth.
How brilliant is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So ask a ton of questions. Number 3 is, I would say perseverance. It's in 2 ways. It's competence and commitment. So perseverance and competence and commitment.
I like that.
So perseverance and the commitment is that being an entrepreneur or just good at anything, right? You want to be a good teacher. You're a good teacher. You want to be a better teacher. Well, it's the commitment to becoming a better. You better have an action plan or some sort of strategic plan to become better. That's the commitment. That's the commitment side. And it may require more time and hours or readjusting your schedule because you got a new dog or you just had a new baby, right, or your parents require some added time, right? Or that you've lost some track of friends over time. So your time is constantly a mess.
Right.
And how you're going to organize your time and committing to be better at your craft, that's really important. It's something that I think in Western New York and people over there should constantly be thinking about is how do I up my game? What tools am I going to deploy to up my game? The second is competence, right? So is it okay to give advice if you haven't been through it? I think it gets to self-awareness. Know what you're good at and what you have experienced in that have shaped intuition and your wisdom, and be free with it with other people. But the best part is having the self-awareness to know what you're good and not good at.
Right.
Don't be the talking head. I'm not good at everything. I've unfortunately come to the realization that I'm not great, but
yeah.
But I'm also know that I've got great mentors and support network in my own crew,
right,
that when I'm doubtful about something or I have a question, I go ask.
Right.
In part, that's a smart thing to do. It gets to the number 2 point, but also it's because I'm committed to being a better human, a better professional, and being more competent so that when I'm in a position to teach somebody else, and namely my own children,
of course,
I want to be in a position to teach them the right things.
Right.
You with me?
I'm with you.
And it gets to self-awareness. I think fundamentally, and this sounds a little fluffier, but mind, body, soul is probably the most important thing, and it's probably has become the differentiator in my life. So exercise, right? You gotta be fit, and you can't see it, but wickedly broad shoulders.
Yeah.
Not as I can't hit the ball 380 yards.
Still,
but I'm a solid 210,
yeah.
220.
Get you out there this summer.
So mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
Mind is, a lot of, just mindfulness and meditation has become very useful. And then spirituality. I'm proud to say that we re-engaged with our faith at a time where the faith needed its people to be a part of that community and reestablish their values. And between those two things, it kind of set the tone for me to really evaluate how I wanted to be a father, a better mentor to people that matter in this, that matter to me,
sure,
and be a better professional and person in my community. And it's been a big difference. Yeah.
Very well said. That was great. It resonated deeply with me, especially on the pieces of the competence, and then it's basically a playoff of the mentorship role, right? Where it's don't be the guy who's giving information to a mentee or someone, a company, a person, and you don't really have the insights, but you're trying to do that. You're going to give them bad information. So it's like, hey, listen, let me go call a friend, put you two together. So then it ties in the connection piece. So there's mentoring, there's the connection, there's the self-awareness. So very well said.
That's very well said.
Well, just
That's actually what you're really good at. You may not have all the answers, but I got a guy.
Right. It goes back, and I've already shouted.
Change that phrase, man.
Got a guy.
I got a gal, right? I mean, I think we've made the switch.
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yeah.
Right.
Say that again. You got what?
I got a gal.
Yeah. It was yeah.
I got a guy. Everybody always said I got a guy. But
right,
we need a little bit more diversity.
Of course, D&I. That's what it's all about, right? Breaking down barriers. But, you said it well, and, maybe I was able to tie all that together after your little soliloquy there because of the mentorship that you've given me over the past 6 years, which has been, I can't say thanks enough. To be able to speak to you on a Saturday at 9 p.m. and bounce ideas off of for what I'm doing in my business and the people I'm working with, that's huge. So I appreciate it. So, this has been great. I want to tie it all together. I know you just had a really good, little bit of some information on smarter and efficient and some core values, but talk to us just open-ended. Is there something you're reading? Is there a podcast you're listening to? Is there a meditation app that you're using that's helping you through your meditation daily? Just to leave the audience with, to go home with something of great value that you've already done.
I think I've been just through my work with Endeavor, so fundamentally right now, I'm so focused on finding the best entrepreneurs in this community that we can deploy global resources to help accelerate their growth. And I'm so on that. Like, it's so front of mind for me that it's making me aware of a lot of, different things. Like when I'm talking with entrepreneurs that we're considering for selection into this group, I'm really thinking about not only do you have, whether or not you have, I'm coming to a point.
No, that's good. It's good.
Not only do you have the desire, not only have you identified a problem that you're innovating to help solve, but do you have the business acumen and processes in place to solve it and be sustainable? Sustainable also gets to, you got to make some money at it, right?
Great job.
So as a result, I have re-engaged with a book called Seeing the Big Picture.
Yes.
Do you know that book? Did I give you this book?
You told me, you gave me it over the summer. You probably need to give it back from me then.
I do.
If you're re-engaging with it.
I did.
Or
I was
maybe
literally went on it.
Either
so
you bought
seeing
it for
the
me,
big picture,
seeing the big picture,
because it's sexy to be called an entrepreneur.
Of course.
Right? But it's really hard to be operationally proficient.
Right.
And that's what allows the sustainability. Yeah. It's the inputs. It's the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly inputs that you got to, the hourly inputs that you put in to solving that problem, and that ultimately makes it somewhat sustainable, which means that it gets to continue to solve that problem. Right? Yeah. So entrepreneur meets business person, fuse them together, seeing the big picture is a great one.
Tying those values you talked about. Yep.
The geography of new jobs is a good shout out to the leaders of our community, because it really gets into how an innovation job or manufacturing job, a job of innovation kicks off the multiplier effects into the service sector. And so when we're planning for the future, and I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years down the road in this community, the seeds that we're laying today will determine whether or not our children have great opportunities 20 years from now. So the new geography of jobs is a really good read in that regard. If you're thinking about mindfulness.
So we got two so far. So seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
And what was the last one you just said? Just one more time.
The new geography of jobs.
Okay.
And I just downloaded a mindfulness app. I go to mindful.org.
Yeah.
Which is a great one, but I don't have.
Headspace is a good one.
Oh, that's it.
That's what I have. Headspace. I just opened my phone up here.
Okay, good.
Headspace.
I'm happy you brought that up. Yeah, I just downloaded. I think you're actually the one that told me to
get it.
Yeah. So I just downloaded that, and does that?
Yeah, that's great. No, that's awesome. And as we conclude here, Endeavor, Western New York, there's some really cool things happening. So please be sure to check them out. If you know good entrepreneurs, good companies, please pass them along to John Gavigan here, Executive Director of Endeavor, Western New York. It's been a pleasure to have you.
It's good to see
you. Really
you.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here. Spend some time with us.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Good job.
Good to see you. Thanks.
That wraps up this episode. To learn more about John and Endeavor, visit their website. Thanks again for checking us out. Subscribe and comment on this episode to help us grow our audience.